Well, we're off from Camaret now. It's 12:50 UK time on Saturday the 17th of June. We're going through the Raz to Sein, and we're just beginning the passage now. So we've only just left Camaret. We're about 17 miles away from the entrance of the Raz where we are now. We need to be there for about 3 o'clock this afternoon to hit slack water. At the moment the only wind we got is a little bit of wind on the nose plus the 5 knots that we're travelling through the water on, so there's no wind really as such. And we're just settling down into now our first passage through the Raz, so see how this goes. And there's the beach we went to last year. Today it's been very benign, very little wind, the sea's really flat, and yeah, we're doing okay. So we're a little bit later than I wanted to be, so we're 8.9 miles away, we're doing 5.2 knots over the ground, and we're trying to hit slack water, which is at 15:30. And I think we're going to be a bit late at this rate, so we're probably going to be about half hour late, so we just have to see what that means. But the conditions are really benign at the moment. It will mean that the door will open, the tidal door opens, taking us through the Raz, rather than us going into neutral conditions. We will go into actually the tide actually taking us through. We'll have to see what that's like. But at the moment, it's all good. So we're now just outside the Raz to Sein. You've got the lighthouse on your left and the mainland, and you've got the Taverny, which is a large rock, and some rocks out to the right, to our right. We planned to get here for slack water, which was at 15:30. It's now 15:20. We are still, although you can see everything, we're 4 miles away, so we're slightly late on our tide, but the conditions are really benign at the moment. It's absolutely flat calm. I'll just turn the camera around. There's not much in the way of waves or wind today, so it's been a perfect day to go through the Raz. It's our first time through. This is the furthest south we've been, so we're learning our way, and this is a great day to actually sort of chalk off the Raz and see what it's all about without having to do it in a bit more of an extreme situation. But yeah, we're doing well, and what I'll do now is I'll stop filming this bit, and then we'll start again when we're a bit closer in. Closer now. My timings were slack water was at 15:30. It's 15:48, and we've still got some tide against us. Not a great deal. we're doing about 5.5 through the water, and we're doing 4.9 over the ground, and that number has been climbing, so I think the tide is slowing down to slack, but I think slack water is going to be slightly later than I worked it out, so that's interesting. I have to re-look at that, but I'm in the ballpark clearly. Other thing is, we seem to be the only people going through at the moment, which is always a bit of a worry, but it is a perfect day to attempt the Raz. It's warm, there's little wind, the sea is very flat, and we're making some good tracks. So this is where we are, not too far now. We're going to get past these 2 points. Sorry for the interlude. So we've come in at 180 degrees, we're coming in from the north, and we're making for La Ville lighthouse, which is that lighthouse there, and by doing that, makes us a midway point between the lighthouse and Turbinek, which is the lighthouse on the other side, and some rocks. So that brings us through. We then pass this lighthouse by about half a mile, and then we bear to starboard to pass the Western Cardinal, which you can see there, the yellow-black Cardinal, which is called La Platte. So we're probably, I don't know, 10-15 minutes from doing that. Tide at the moment still is 4.9 knots over the ground, 5-6 through the water. So we've still got some negative tide, which is interesting. A couple of guys have actually already gone through. 3 yachts have gone through, and they've scooted round, and they're behind that headland now. And I was watching them on AIS, and I did notice their speed over the ground didn't seem particularly fast. They were doing like 3.5s, 4.8s, that kind of thing. But then the French will just sail everywhere. Maybe it was that. But I think now it's more to do with this tide. So that's where we are for now. Another sort of 10-15 minutes will get us past that Cardinal, La Platte. Raz to Sein, our return trip through it. Left Benidorm at 6 o'clock this morning in driving rain and really poor visibility all for a couple of hours, and then the rain cleared up and it's been a bit grey like this. We are late for the Raz. We should be here at slack water. We're going to be here about 1 o'clock, which I think is about an hour and a half after slack water. So we struggled with the wind on the nose, and it just took us longer than we thought, so that's why we're late. But there's not much, although it's wind on the nose, there isn't a great deal of wind now. It's died off, and it's quite flat. So let's see. I can see breakers behind La Platte, and we'll just have to see how we get on. But we're doing 7.5 knots over the ground. We're heading to our waypoint in the middle. We're going to keep past La Platte to starboard by about half a mile, and then we're going to bear away and take the bearing which will be between Trenek and La Ville to keep us into deep water. So that's where we are at the moment. It's been quite a few hours to get here. I mean, 6.5 hours or so just to get to here so far. We're on our way after this to Camaret, then tomorrow Chanel de Four, then Roscoff, and then home. So part of our home trip. Well, in hindsight, Cal's reaction there was completely justified, and I think I was being rather blasé about the situation because things did change significantly beyond that moment. The breaking waves that we've seen in the distance were now getting rapidly closer towards us, and it was clear that what I needed to be doing was focusing on helming clemency. So camera down and auto helm off, and start helming. Now, I think the learning at this point, looking back now, is that being an hour and a half late for the RAS is a bad thing. And you know, we all know the almanac and the pilot books say be there at slack water, but sometimes it's very difficult to achieve that. So we left Benedey at 6 o'clock in the morning in really poor visibility, fog and rain. We worked our way out the river quite slowly to get across the dogleg, which we couldn't see the transit on, and then when we got out into open water, the wind, which was forecast to be on our beam, was slightly ahead, or just like ahead of our beam, and then as we turned the corner was actually on the bow, which slowed us down. So all of these things are why we were about an hour and a half late to the entrance of the RAS. We'd had a plan B, which was to go pick up a mooring ball in Saint Yvette, Audienne, and then wait for the next tide the following day. And it's quite, Audienne is really relatively close to the RAS, so quite difficult then to achieve a slack water entrance. But we were put off doing that because we were speaking to people and they were saying that it could actually be very rough there. There was large swells going through that part of France at that time, and it would have been an uncomfortable night. So I was in this place where I just wanted to push on and get to Camaret where we'd be more comfortable. And in hindsight, that was wrong. However, we did pick up with another yachty a couple of days later who'd actually spent that particular night in Audienne, in Saint Yvette on a mooring ball, and had found it really difficult and very uncomfortable. Said it was one of their worst nights afloat. So we would have had a bad night, as opposed to having sort of 20 minutes to half hour of really challenging conditions. So the conditions. So from a distance, I talk in the video, I can see breaking waves. We're now moving towards them and we enter the area where the waves are starting to break. Any of the sailors who are watching this video that have experienced the overfalls, the race at Portland will understand what I'm talking about. We got caught out in the race many years ago, and it was quite scary. And I'd say the RAS was worse. So my advice to anybody who's going through the RAS is try and get there at slack. If you can't get there at slack, have a plan B, but don't push on. So we had next to no wind, as you can see in that video. This is the energy and anger of the RAS is purely the tide. Now add wind over tide to that. Bear in mind that we had next to no wind. I wouldn't want to think about it. So I hope you find this video interesting. As you can see, you have the benign RAS, the RAS that when we're passing south, and now you understand you can have the difficult RAS, the RAS we pass north. And sometimes it's the decisions you make that make the difference between the benign or the difficult. So I hope you've enjoyed the video.